Hello.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I'm really grateful and quite excited. So,
Good.
yeah. So we met, or like I saw you in a video call that we were together on, and I think you were probably talking about dreams or something. And it was in a kind of the Association for Spiritual Integrity, and there wasn't that many people in the meeting. But like I somehow like, just sometimes you get attracted to certain people. So even before you spoke, I didn't know that you were even going to be a speaker. But somehow like I just kind of noticed you or something. And but I wasn't thinking anything, I just noticed. And then when you started to talk, I just had a really good feeling, like just kind of a joyful feeling. And I don't know, I just kind of feel like I can trust that in itself. And then also, I'm very interested in dreams as well. Like, I've also been really kind of enthusiastic, maybe like overly enthusiastic, I don't know, about dreams my whole life. So I like that dream work is kind of your thing or part of your thing.
Oh, it's a big part.
Yeah,
A really big part. Yeah.
yeah.
Have a practice for working with your dreams, or what do you do?
Not really anymore. I used to. Now I kind of, the way there's lots of different types of dreams. So different dreams have different qualities. So I do always like if I remember my dreams and just like they'd be in my consciousness and I don't really they kind of blend together in my experience, like the dream life and waking life, you
Mhm.
know, maybe especially because I'm reflecting on them. Like something comes up and then I'd be maybe discovering that this quality is actually here in my waking life as well. And sometimes they can seem very different. Like you can dream something because you're maybe dreaming you're a different person or something, and maybe behaving in a totally different way than this character would. So sometimes it can seem, of course, as if it's totally different or something, but I don't really find usually in myself that it is totally different. Like I do feel like they're informing me, and not really like the way I think about it is like it's not really what's in like me as a character, like Amba and like the history of Amba, but I kind of think about it as just like whatever consciousness is here kind of
Mhm.
thing. So like within my consciousness. And now I don't really think about it that much. Like, is my consciousness separate from the whole consciousness? Like I do in other areas, but not really when it comes to dreams.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
That's interesting. Lately I'm finding that I'm really going into a process of when I'm waking up, I realize that I've had a dream or two and I'll remember them, but I'll still be in that hypnagogic state, in that state in
Mm,
between. And I'll start going ahead to work on the dream instead of capture the dream.
mm,
And so just kind of feeling into what was there, like,
mm,
oh, this is a really good dream, I can see and feel how this is, these experiences that are happening in this dream could be really beneficial to me in the waking realm. And
mm,
I start working on it, and I go back to sleep, and then I wake up and I can't remember the dream.
mm,
And that used to stress me out, like, oh darn, maybe I won't be able to get everything I should have out of the dream.
mm,
But these days it doesn't. I feel like a little bit of what you're saying, that we get to choose really how heavy and thick we want the veil to be between these two vast
mm,
areas that we experience, right? Both
mhm,
for pretty long periods of time.
mhm.
And so, yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. And I would really like to talk with you about dreams, whatever comes up. But first, I'd like to just kind of clarify, like my kind of where I'm coming from, and then maybe where you're coming from in relation to that, and see if it's like similar, just for our listeners as well. And this podcast is generally about the people who are listening to it are maybe waking up to who they are beyond stories. let's say, and connecting to themselves like beyond character only.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it seems like, now I didn't really plan this, but it seems like as the interviews or conversations go on, it seems like the exploration is that it's really like the integration of what we discover ourselves, like kind of our divinity, you could say. But then we find that I kind of feel like our bodies are a bit slow to get the message, or like our bodies maybe store past experiences, or maybe it's like experiences that we haven't really integrated. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is what it probably is. Things that we
Mm-hmm.
haven't really looked at and brought our light to, they kind of live within our bodies, not necessarily physical bodies, but it would be in our physical bodies as well. And that then can, I suppose, and I don't really want to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway, even though it's not right. It can kind of interfere with our experience of our recognition, where I don't know if this is really true, but like I kind of feel like most of us, we also want to experience ourselves as that wholeness that we discover ourselves to be. But sometimes it can seem like we're not experiencing that, like we're actually experiencing separation, or upset, or I don't know, we can probably put lots of different words on it. When we talk about like healing as well, I would kind of feel like, because one part of me kind of feels like, well, there's not really any need for healing because who I am is doesn't need to be healed. Who I am is beyond all stories of the world now. Okay, that's one kind of thing. But then what I am actually the experience myself and probably many of us is that, well, there are still areas that need healing.
Well, one thing that came to me really strongly as you were speaking is that I see what you're saying and I know what you mean about our sort of innate wholeness. And um, I have considered and called myself a healer. I have seen a lot of people who are deeply wounded, hurt, suffering. And I agree that, we are sort of whole and we are sort of part of something bigger. And quite recently, I find myself using the words healing and remembering
Mm,
interchangeably.
mm,
So I think that a lot of the times when we're suffering the most, we don't remember who and what we are. We are really attached to those stories, right? And
yeah. Mm,
events as we experience them.
mm,
But I've found that there's like this aspect of remembering that is associated with healing.
mm,
And sometimes in order to remember, we have to hear it as if it's the first time.
yeah.
And then we remember and we can act or live based on that remembering or understanding. And that's what healing looks like.
Mm,
Does that make sense to you, what I just said? Because I was
mm,
really going,
yeah.
what you said.
So it's kind of like remembering like again and again and again. So it's not like just like if, let's say, if I remembered when I remembered, like, let's say who I am, remembered my wholeness yesterday. I can't feel like like I know it right now, like, so it's just like remembering it fresh again and again and again. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sometimes we can hold it for quite a long time, the remembering of who and what we are,
Mm,
that we're love, that we're starlight, that we're
mm,
all kinds of, we're everything really. But
mm,
but we but lots of times we need a cue
mm,
because life's us, right?
mm,
And so I think that for those of us who get stuck on this idea of healing because it implies brokenness,
mm,
another way of looking at it is just that we've forgotten and with rights. Like we've
Mm,
forgotten because there have been things that cause us to forget,
mm.
but it's possible to remember.
But isn't there something as well that really you are remembering? Like you can really know who you are in your heart and be totally in the remembrance of it. But yet, I don't know if need is the right word, but like just like what you said, this is what triggered it, that we don't need to be broken for healing. So we can feel a total wholeness in our heart and unity with everything, but yet there can still be like sadness arising, you know, sadness, or as an example, I'm talking from my own experience. I seem to experience a lot of sadness and kind of anger, and all of this. I feel like it wants healing, like it wants to be brought into the wholeness or something.
Mhm.
So I don't know, maybe it's that itself that wants to remember or come to the wholeness or something. I don't know.
It could be, in my work, I very often find that both anger and sadness require a voice
Mm,
um, in order to sort of be integrated in a way that's not painful. Um, that that's that. Oh, they can sort of take up a lot of the space that could be used in other ways. They
mm,
can be very demanding,
mm,
sadness and anger.
mm,
And I find that most people with an opportunity to give them a voice, not a whole big story
mm,
necessarily, just a voice, can feel better. Part of that is because it's true. The anger is true, and the
mm,
sadness is true. And truth also demands a voice,
mm.
right?
Yeah. I like that what you said, that they're true, because I feel like in spirituality sometimes we can just pick up these ideas, that only love and joy and all of this is true. But I just think this is something to really bring attention to. And it's true purely just because it arises within us. So if you're in integrity with yourself and just being honest with yourself, it's just really recognizing what's here and yeah, like including it in our wholeness, really, isn't it? And not saying like, no, no, that's not true. So there are
Yeah.
two examples, but probably everything, all the things that people don't want, like maybe like violence is true. And whatever, like the worst things we can imagine, like, that we usually try to push out. Yeah.
It's all truth and it's all of our own creation.
Yeah. How do you how would you suggest that people could use their dreams to bring about healing within themselves?
So that's one of the things that I really love the most about dreams, actually, is that that's exactly what's happening. They're bringing about healing within themselves, and I'm really not doing much.
Mm,
And I think that's the context that I brought it up in the conversation that you heard me having with others around, spiritual integrity and things like that.
mm,
Is that there can be power dynamics in psychotherapy and in dream work and in all of these things that muck it up.
mm,
Not always even intentionally on the part of the person who's in the position of a healer or dream workers,
mm,
therapist, whatever. But it's almost implicit in that, I'm here to help you and guide you and and
mm,
even erroneously or unintentionally, because of the power dynamic,
mm,
it can be disempowering. Is I think a good word to use to describe it. And so,
mm.
in the kind of dream work that I do, um, I don't actually analyze people's dreams because
Yeah.
the dreams belong to the dreamer. And so I guide them back into something that's called a hypnagogic state. It's really just a very relaxed state between waking and dreaming, that leaves you, really open to, well, it gives you more spaciousness for kind of getting out of your own way and your habitual consciousness, and allowing whatever's going to come in from the dream realm, so we can revisit dreams. And we revisit dreams and get really, really close and very, very slow and intentional with the dream images. It's kind of like hosting them. We get so close and pay such careful attention to their essence, to their presence, that they allow you to share a perspective with them. That's what I call a dream embodiment. So you kind of step outside of your habitual consciousness, your ego perspective, and dreams will sort of allow you to become absorbed in their presence. That allows you to, and then I help the dreamer to anchor those experiences in their body. So if you became a little girl who dream you was talking to in the dream, but you became embodied by the little girl, I would help you to anchor that in your body so that you could remember it. And this is all happening in a dual state of consciousness. You're not forgetting anything. You're just revisiting your dream, but the dream images are allowing you to share a perspective with them. So the little girl, let's say that the little girl just is really just looking at you, and she needs love. She needs a hug. She's just feeling so much desire for reassurance, let's say. So I'll ask you, where in the body are you most aware that she's feeling this need for loving assurance? And you might say, well, she feels it in her stomach and kind of leading to her heart, like in a line between the two. So I'll have you anchor it there. So we'll visit a number of images. We can visit 2, we can visit maybe up to 5, and we'll pick up these anchors in the body that you've shared, these felt experiences that the dream images have shared with you. And at the end, we're going to work all of them, 2 to 5 of them, into your body. So whatever the dream had to share with you, we're working it into your waking physical plane body. And so when the session is over, you've got what those dream images had to share with you. I'm not going to tell you what they had to share with you. You went there or you didn't. They shared with you whatever they had. And then you figure out, and here I will step in if I'm also doing kind of talk therapy with someone, and figure out, okay, well, this is what this dream was about. It's usually absolutely nothing like what it looked like really very, very rarely. I don't believe the language of dreams is literal. It's quite figurative and metaphoric and deep. And basically the question becomes, okay, so I just got all this information. How does this play into my wholeness? How does this play into my day-to-day life? How does this play into my suffering, my joy? How do I integrate that in now? Usually it's just incredibly beneficial for people, but I just guide them. I guide them to get close enough to a dream image to become absorbed. That's it. Right? So the healing is actually coming from within the person. It's coming from within their dream life. And I'm a guide. That's it. But I've experienced my own healing in this way. So I'm a very willing guide. I do feel like it's a calling. I do feel like it's a gift. I do feel, quite passionate about introducing people to this limitless resource that's available to them while they're sleeping. I don't feel like dream images just pop up for no reason, as some people in the scientific fields might say, or it's just the brain doing this, that, or the other. I believe that it's a spiritual experience. And
do you think they're all equally as you can use any dream?
That's a really great question. I think we have big dreams,
Mm.
and I think we have smaller dreams, and some dreams, and I think the dreams are actually working on us, whether we're remembering them and doing like a big embodied imagination process, or journaling, or
Mm.
forget, or go back to sleep, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
They're still working on us. If you take pictures of what's going on in the brain,
Yeah.
there things are happening, right? It looks
Mm.
like memory consolidation,
Mm.
actually, neuroscientifically. So I think that they're not all the same. They're
Yeah.
not all the same. Some are really big dreams. Nightmares, repetitive dreams,
Mm.
are dreams that really are trying to get our attention. There's something there.
Yeah.
And that's different than, you know, for example, lots of people have anxiety dreams, right? And
Mm.
it's clear that's what it is. Like I was
Yeah.
so, and it's closely attached to something in waking life that you're feeling kind of anxious about, right? Well,
Yeah.
in that case, your dream might be helping you to process some anxiety,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
right? While
Yeah.
you're asleep. In every case, I find dreams to be beneficent, even
Yeah.
though I know nightmares can feel like a torture. I mean, I truly know
Yeah.
that.
Mm.
But when I feel like nightmares, when we get what they're trying to do
Mm.
and share, can be some of the most beneficial. So,
Mm.
yeah.
And I wonder in yourself, like, do you kind of draw a line between like the dream world and this world? Because in a way, like we have so many things going on, like many people have so many experiences that are in the waking life that haven't been integrated,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So even that would be to look upon something that maybe happened in our past, which is obviously still imagination in a
Right.
way, but different than dreams. So
Well,
if that were to be integrated, is there a difference between that, do you think, dreams and memories?
well, I guess what I'm saying is, so say there is something in your waking life that needs to be integrated,
Mm.
and you've not been able to, or you've pushed it down into the subconscious,
Mm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time that you're ready to integrate that, your dreams are getting on board to help you,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not like you have to work things out in the waking life and you have to work things out in the dreaming life.
Mm.
It's a two-way street. It's
Yeah.
that, there's a bridge, and it's just, that's another remembering.
Yeah.
We've forgotten the bridge.
Yeah. It's like everything in our experience is an experience. It doesn't really matter where it comes from. Even if it's like imagination. Imagination is an experience in a way. Daydreaming, real
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
whatever. It's all experience, experience.
yeah.
And
That,
I don't know, that was one thing I wanted to kind of just see what you had to say about it. Within my like psychology or within my way of thinking, sometimes I can be dismissive about experience altogether, like just within myself, like maybe I'll have some experience, whatever, like, and at the time it'll be like, oh yeah, oh my gosh. And you'll totally feel it, like it may be a good experience. Usually it's the good experiences, like some maybe spiritual kind of experience or something, and you have some kind of insight and say, oh, so good. But then I'm just real, oh yeah, like, I really, like, I'm not interested in kind of dwelling on it or something, and also I kind of feel like I'm not looking for any experiences. Like I don't feel like any experience will add to my life or something. Yet, of course, in a way it could look like I am, because maybe I'm going to go over here for an experience. Like I told you, I was going to India. Like, why am I going? I don't know. Why do this? Like, you have an experience all the time. Like, this is an experience now, talking with each other. So I don't know. There's something, this is just within my own self, but I think it could be relatable to other people within spirituality, because you kind of find what's beyond all experience, and you kind of see that like nothing really needs to happen and nothing is going to add to me or change who I am or change what is. But yeah, all this experiencing is unfolding within us. Um, but I do feel like I don't want to just really want to be dismissive of experience, either. But there is something in me that's dismissive of experience, but I don't feel like it's in a bad way.
Mm-hmm. I think that I actually aim for what you're describing, but I frame it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So, one way that I frame the sort of dismissiveness of experience that you're describing is non-attachment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like I won't be drawn in.
Mm,
Goes back to the story thing. Like there is a
mm,
story here that I can choose or not choose, right?
yeah.
And in a variety of experiences. And so, the more you're able to make those choices, the freer you are
Mm,
in my worldview. This is
mm,
my psyche now, and but I feel like it's similar. But
mm,
then, you know, where I do go into fully inhabiting my experiences is for joy,
mm,
right?
mm,
And I don't know why we're here if we're not here to experience joy.
mm, yeah. I think it can be even joy, like it's very natural, I feel, to want to experience joy. So it's kind of like, but somehow I feel like somehow the things that are natural for a human aren't necessarily natural for consciousness. Like I don't even think it's natural to hold on to joy, even though the human does it, you
Well,
know.
there's a difference between like striving and grasping and
Mm,
just experiencing, right?
mm,
Because, well, I mean, I can openly admit that I went through probably at least half of my life
mm,
either not having the experience of joy
mm.
or not recognizing it, one or the other, right?
Yeah,
Um, I don't even know if it matters, but
yeah.
and I still firmly believe that that's a big part of the reason that we're here having this incarnated fleshly experience.
Mm,
But it's not it it's a process.
mm.
It's a process, and it has to do with that making choices about what to attach experiences to attach to and to not attach to, and
Mm,
deciding whether the stories are for you or they're not for you, or whether you're going to get on board with a story somebody else has written, or you're going to write your own story. I mean, it's complicated, but I feel very, very fortunate to be able to be trying to work it out.
yeah.
I mean, I just do, and I've been very close to death in my life, and and it like very, and
Mm,
in this, I'm very joyful about having had the opportunity to do some more of this, and I'm not afraid of
mm,
dying. But I'm really happy about being able to keep doing this. It's
yeah.
great, even when it's not.
That's the thing. Even when it's not, it is. That was somehow when you were talking, that was coming like that. I think it's not really just striving towards joy. Like it's kind of somewhat natural, I think, at a certain point, like to kind of like you move towards joy. But I think to move towards enjoyment is a different thing. So you
Mhm.
can enjoy anything that's coming up. So you
Yeah.
can enjoy sadness in a way,
Yep.
or enjoy like just enjoy anything. So I think that's closer to, I don't know, haven't really got the words, but somehow the words that I want to say is sort of like closer to natural.
Hmm.
The enjoyment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Watchdogs. They're funny.
Yeah. What's watchdogs?
Huh?
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
I mean, I'm not even so much of a dog person, but when I try and figure it out, because I think of myself as somebody who's like missing a chip when it comes to like pet ownership, but anyway.
Okay.
But I try to figure it out, and I'll
Uh-huh.
watch dogs, and
Okay.
they've they've got it in some ways, right? They've
Ah,
got it like,
oh, I get it. You just mean like watch dogs.
I don't mean watch dogs, I mean watch dogs.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
just, you know, they're just going through life and having the experiences, enjoying the things that they enjoy very much. You know,
yeah. Mm,
I think that the more we can take nature, which dogs fall into that category, I guess we do too, but nature as our cue,
mm.
I feel like I have a lot to learn there.
So if something arises within somebody, something that feels uneasy in the system, let's say, like an old pattern of conditioning, simultaneously, if there is just enjoyment and ease within ourselves when this is present, would you feel like there's a need for healing or integrating that? Healing doesn't have to mean you're healing because you're broken.
Yes, that's right. Because what I see happens a lot of times, for example, we'll use the dream work because we were using it before, is that I find that the dream images very often will lend somebody like the antidote to that thing that's up in them that feels uncomfortable or
Mm,
feels like someone might identify as needing healing, and that simply by holding those two things together,
mm,
the uncomfortable state and
mm,
this state that the dream has lent
mm.
together in their body, in their
Yeah.
awareness, they're healing or
Mm,
becoming whole, right? Or integrating or
yeah.
remember that both are available to them. I mean, there's a million ways of saying it,
Yeah.
but that's what's happening. And it's happening within their own resources,
Yeah.
right? Not something that somebody else gave them, not a pill,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Not, I mean, I'm going to make a slight diversion, but it's just absolutely astounding to me that it's now come out that all of these pills that they've been giving people for depression, they've literally had to come out and say, well, they don't actually work for that.
yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. It doesn't
whoa.
surprise me.
No, I don't think, I think there's a fair amount of people who aren't surprised.
Mm,
And I just hope that people receive the information in a way that feels like empowerment, because there's a lot of different ways we can digest that kind of information, particularly if you've been taking these medications, right,
mm,
for a long time. If you've grown to feel, if you believe that they saved your life, I mean, it's a big thing.
mm,
I don't go down that hole,
mm,
but we're talking about, but what we're talking about is that these resources that we have ourselves,
mm.
right,
Yeah.
and what also I think that we're talking about is that it's not only while we're awake, it's while we're sleeping. I
Mm,
mean, so it's just like quite a broad area of being able to be resourced if you consider the dream realms and the waking realms as like one huge, it's limitless really.
yeah. So I wonder if you're like just totally tuned into your heart, is there anything, even if it's completely unrelated to what we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that your heart would like to share or something?
I think that what I feel moved most to share is that is going to come from a recent dream that I worked.
Mhm.
And so in this dream, there were a lot of different elements. It was very, if taken from a strictly ego or habitual consciousness perspective, it was just a very disturbing dream. But as you
Mm,
now know, that's not how I approach them. So I
mm,
went to each image and surrendered myself to the embodiment with the images and understanding why they were there. And at one point in the dream, I was faced with a pit of snakes, and um, I was being guided to share an embodiment with this pit of just writhing snakes that I knew were going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I was in the telling of the dream, I was afraid of them. But when I went into the dream from a different kind of consciousness, they became something that I was curious about and had a lot of movement. And so, as they tried to guide me into the embodiment with the snakes, what happened was that I went into a place of blackness, just, just absolutely black. And I was quite overcome with emotion. I was quite um, frightened. I felt desolate, alone, and in this immense blackness. And I wanted to get the heck out of there. I wanted the session to end. And these wonderful humans who guided me helped me to stay. And once I calmed a bit, I had another sense come over me. And the sense that came over me was, oh, this isn't limitless darkness. This is limitless potential. And then I was truly overcome because to know that, the actual experience of knowing that was deeply profound. And with it came an understanding of my role there, that I could potentially do with that what I would. And so, yeah, that's what I want to share. I have had that kind of a dream more than once. Each time I have that dream, it is just emotionally quite overpowering. You know, my day-to-day emotions are get quite wrapped up in it, and I really need to surrender. Um, but that's how I view the dream realm, and I think my sense is that the dreams might be showing me that that's not just about the dream realm either.
mm,
That there's an experience of limitless potential within all of us.
mm. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I feel like many people experience maybe even within like spirituality, this sense of a kind of a void, blackness or something. I can't remember the word you used on
Just just limitless
limitless, yeah, blackness.
every direction.
Yeah. And
But it
I've,
changed to
yeah,
unlimited potential.
yeah. That's like what you said earlier. You said like there's no fear of death.
Mm.
So that's kind of that, isn't it? It's kind of almost like facing death, like because death is kind of nothingness, isn't it? It's an idea, obviously, but like an
Right,
idea like that there's nothing. But then
right.
if you're seeing that there's no nothing, it's like potential. Where there's where there's nothing, it's not really nothing, it's potential.
That's right.
But of course, um hearing somebody else saying it or reading it in a book or something like that. It doesn't really do anything for us. Like we need to experience these things ourselves. So that's your own experience.
That's right.
Mm. But I feel like many of us do have this, like either it doesn't, sometimes people think I don't have a fear of death or something, but it doesn't really matter what I've seen in myself. It doesn't really matter what you think, like what you think you believe or what you think you don't believe. Like life will show you, or your dreams will show you, or just an experience that you have will show you what you really believe in your energetic field or something. And somehow, when you were sharing that, you could kind of feel it. It's like you brought us through the feeling of it.
Mhm.
And
It's very intense.
yeah,
It came back on me too. It's
yeah,
really,
I can feel it.
it was very much a gift.
Yeah, I wish I had some dream experiences like to share, but my dream world has been very surprisingly very quiet lately. Like, yeah, but I hope that when dreams come, I'll and maybe whoever's listening will pick up this kind of idea of really kind of tuning in to. But maybe I don't know. Do you feel like you can do these things by yourself, or do you feel like it needs to be guided? Or
So I've been really for 10 years thinking about how on earth can people do embodied imagination without a guide?
mm-hmm,
And I haven't been able to figure it out. I mean, I wake up from dreams very often wishing that I had a guide beside me because I cannot take myself there.
mm,
Um, and very often, if I try, then I'll just go back to sleep.
mm,
But um, if you take one image, just one, you can try to
mm,
just entertain what the image's perspective is, and kind of just try and step away from your habitual consciousness.
mm,
Just imagine, you know, what the dream image's perspective is, and it's very helpful in doing that to sort of get very particular with every aspect of that dream images or entities being, noticing, the very wrinkles in its skin, the way that it breathes, the posture that it takes. And the
mm,
more that you notice and host and honor its presence, the more likely you are to be able to experience that transit into what it holds. But so I think that's possible with an image. So you can come into relationship with maybe one image on your own to do the
mm,
whole bodied imagination experience where you go around and pick up, 3 to 5 images and then work all of them into one body. And
mm,
that's that takes a guide. And I believe, my belief is that it's because it requires so much almost redirection away from your habitual consciousness. Our ego perspectives and habitual consciousness want to take over
mm.
so much. It's kind of a heroic battle
Yeah.
trying to do that on your own. However, there are a lot of other dream work methods, and I think that the best thing that people can do is really just understand that dreams speak a universal language, right? That
Mm,
um, and it's not English, right? I mean, what would all of the people in China and India do with
mm,
their dreams?
mm,
Dreams speak a universal language of symbolism that
mm,
is very particular to the individual person.
mm,
So each dream image, that the language is the images, and each image holds a very particular meaning for each dreamer.
mm,
So just by associating to the images, what does this particular image mean to me? You can get a lot closer to the meaning of a dream. Um, yeah, it's not like dreams are trying to be tricky and speak some language that
yeah.
understand. It's that it is their language. It is a universal
Mm,
language. And so I just encourage people to try and remember that. And it's very rarely literal.
yeah. I'm somehow remembering during this conversation, this was like a dream from like a long, long time ago. I don't know. I don't know why I'm even saying it. I'm just saying it. But I had a dream once. I think maybe it was kind of like a lucid dream, which I was going to ask you about. But in the dream, I was kind of like swimming underwater or something. And I think I had like a camera and I was taking photographs. And I somehow wanted to bring the pictures with me. And then somebody came, like it felt like some kind of like angelic being or something. They came and they took the pictures and the camera off me and they said like you can't take images from here. You're not allowed to bring them with you or something. And
Mm,
somehow it was quite an impactful dream somehow. Like somehow
mhm,
it stays with me. But like I guess the meaning that I give it is just like in the whole of life being a dream. Like you can't bring any of the stories or anything, which I somehow just give it that kind of meaning.
mm, mm. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's true for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something that you'd like to share?
No, no, I feel complete.
Mm,
It's been a pleasure. Um, I had no idea what to expect, but delving into these topics and meeting you there has
mm.
been a pleasure.
Okay, Catherine, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Ooh, it was really, really lovely being in your presence and
Mm,
sharing this time.
yes, thank you so much.
Okay, take
Okay,
care.
bye.
Bye.